안녕하세요. So also for me, it's always a pleasure to be back in Korea. Thanks to KCCI inviting me today as well. And big thanks go to SK, who is part of our alliance, contributing via the CES to the work what we are doing. And I will try to give you a short overview what is happening with regard to social value creation on the global scale. So maybe first about the Value Balancing Alliance. You see that we are a conglomeration of internationally operating companies across different regions, across different industries. And in the end, it's a platform so that we can bring together the best of all worlds to help companies how to measure social value, how to overcome the challenges which have just outlined also by SoftBank. So what are the solutions to really measure and value, in the end, not just CSR initiatives, but the total business model of companies? It's a long history we bring together. It goes back over 15 years. The first company who has worked on that one is called Puma. I think you all know them, sports shoes. And we also work closely together with service providers like the Big Four. KPMG True Value methodology was mentioned, and we try to consolidate and converge all these methodologies so that we can come up with one standardized methodology to compare performance. Why are we doing this? And I think we've heard this throughout the day a few times. We're talking about accountability. We're talking about value creation. And we're talking about value creation for the company and for society. And the 2 days measurement system, the key yardstick, our financial statements as businesses, we are just falling short. They are measuring the financial situation, not value creation comprehensively. What we need to include are additional capitals, social capital, human capital, natural capital. What we need to include is what the Europeans call the double mutuality. What is the value for business and what is the value to society? And we need to measure along the value chain. And this is one of the key challenges what we face. Because so far also the value of the products all the entrepreneurs out there are bringing up are not reflected on the balance sheet. Looking into the presentation of SoftBank, what is the value of communication? What is the value of mobility? And this is something what we need to get into one measurement system. What we are also lacking with regard to the financial statement, it's just backward looking. Do we get in the end forward-looking statements in place to inform the investors where to invest and where put the money in? We are businesses, we are looking at this purely from the business perspective. And this shows you on a slide, in the end, it's built on the same systems what was introduced by Ikeda-san. First, you're measuring. And this is essentially based on the current reporting frameworks. So what we ensure is that the methodologies we are using are built on the IFRS standards, on GRI, and especially in Europe now, IFRAC. But we translate these different KPIs and data points into a language companies understand. And this is about valuation, this is about monetization and money. And what we need to understand is, depending on the target audience you're looking, you need to apply different valuation methodologies. In general, and we are coming back to the notion of value to society and value to business. If you're looking into value to society, you're looking, for example, with regard to climate change, at the total costs of business. And we are currently measuring a ton of CO2 in that sense with a little bit more than $220, and it will grow. With regard to value to business, you're using other methodologies. You're looking into market prices, you're looking into abatement costs to understand how it will affect in the future your financial performance. What do you need to invest? How will it end up on your balance sheet? How will it end up in your P&L? So what we need to do is to bring sustainability as close as possible to the language and to the systems corporates are using, and this is all around financial accounting. So we're talking about a comprehensive integrated accounting system for the future. The beauty of monetization is that it simplifies, because if you're looking into all the different sustainability topics, compare them to languages. You can't speak 20 languages perfectly. Money is something everyone understands. So this is the easiest one to bring sense to different data points. You can bring it into context. If you're just measuring quantitative terms like liter of waters, it makes a huge difference if you're extracting a liter of water in a desert or next to a lake. And this is what you can reflect via valuations. You can aggregate different data points and you can make it comparable. You can think through what is the most material impact you had, be it climate change, be it health and safety, be it whatever. Only with a common metric, like monetization, you can start to compare. This is, in the end, one of the outcomes we envision. And if you're looking a little bit into the future, our end game is you're opening up your report as a company. On page 3, you see your traditional financial statement. On page 4, you see an impact statement, which outlines the overall value of a company created for society on one page. And in the report, you are starting to talk about how they're both interconnected and linked to each other. This is work, and you see Emmanuel Faber over there, which we are already discussing closely with the IFRS Foundation, how this work can be embedded in the current work of the foundation, looking into financial statements, but for sure also into the ISSB. What you see on this page, and these are real figures from one of our member companies, and I think this is quite essential to understand that the companies we are working with are on an annual basis testing and piloting these methodologies. We share the learnings in the end to improve the methodologies and to improve management accounting within the companies. And there's not one company out there which is perfect at this point in time. So we are learning really from each other. It's a long-term journey we are all in. And the insights what you can get with these numbers, you have a totally new perspective on your business model. And I had the pleasure to introduce this thinking at the chemical giant BASF, and I can give you insights how this kind of information has fundamentally changed the discussions and the perspective at the board level. It is tremendous. Why does this all matter? I've told you that we are currently measuring the ton of CO2 with $220. There's an organization out there called NGFS. It's 30 or 35 central banks now, including Korea, including Japan, and they expect, depending on the climate scenario you are applying, by 2030, the price of carbon should go up close to $500 per ton. Just think about what that means if this number is going to be what we call internalized. We're talking about taxes, we're talking about cost of capital, we're talking about reputation loss, and so on and so on. In the end, what you see, the gray shadowed area is your risk exposure as a company in financial terms or financial effects. There's a reason why the IFRS Foundation, via the ISSB, is pushing heavily that companies should disclose the financial effect of their business model in total. We're talking about external effects, we're talking about intangibles, and we're talking about, in the end, the total value creation of a company to make better decisions and to improve business models. And the financial sector is not working and not waiting. What you see over here is one family office we are working with, who in the end using the same methodologies to allocate their capital to different companies. This is a small one. But if you're looking closer into the financial market, and if I'm telling you that companies like S&P Global are distributing these kinds of data, that Bloomberg is not discussing the if, we're discussing the how to disclose this data, and that we are in close conversations with an asset manager called BlackRock, how to bring this information into decision making and capital allocation. So we expect that a new understanding of value creation will step by step sink in. We see clear signals at this point in time that the market is going to take it up tremendously. And I can just call on companies get prepared, because we are talking about a fundamental system change, which takes time, but it's already happening against everything what we currently hear outside. Trying to bring in the perspective or a glimpse what will happen in the future. And this is what we are in the end reading from the latest developments. I've just mentioned BlackRock on purpose. You might have seen that the CEO, Larry Fink, takes over the World Economic Foundation, at least on an interim basis, together with Andrew Hoffman. And you can expect that this kind of thinking is going to be introduced by the World Economic Forum even more, as we have done so far. The OECD was already mentioned today by the Impact Management Platform. The OECD has just kicked off 3 months ago a 3-year project to also develop these kinds of methodologies, what you have seen from SoftBank, as OECD, with the main purpose and intention to inform policy making by governments. So we expect that governments driven by the OECD will take up this thinking, and this is linked to the whole notion, how do you measure the welfare of a state? So GDP plus developments. I mentioned IFRS already. The discussion in the end is running with the IFRS Foundation via monetization, how you link the impact pillar with investor relevant information to the financial statement. There are first examples out there, and I can just recommend, there's one forest company from Australia called Forico. They are disclosing already in a corporate report a P&L and a balance sheet based on this kind of thinking. And it's chartered accountants who have done this. The European Commission is driving this thinking forward. The work what we are doing at the VBA is embedded in the CSRD regulation. This was a project we have done with the Commission itself and with organizations like the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Our main target as VBA for the next years is to provide a broad platform for all businesses in the world to bring together their thinking, their approaches, their solutions with regard to measuring social value and integrating this in the end into management accounts and into financial statements. Because we expect this new thinking around value creation will become the new normal for businesses, latest in 10 years, most probably in about 5 to 8 years. As I mentioned, and we will hear one presentation later, larger financial institutions have taken up this thinking. We are working together with 4 larger banks, including UBS, BNP Paribas, Deutsche Bank, and Caixa, who are already integrating this kind of information in the end in their products like credits and loans, and thinking through the risk exposure of companies. What we can still do as companies, and here I'm really calling on the global business community that we are speaking up with one voice, that we do not have additional fragmentation in the market as we have seen it with regard to sustainability reporting, to shape the system, to inform the policymakers, to inform the regulators. And I'm a little bit worried that still all these different initiatives and mushrooms are popping up and are not just talking to each other. Therefore, these events here are so timely. Thanks again for welcoming me, and I'm looking forward to the discussions today. Many thanks. 고맙습니다.